amazing, some of the people we had. And I'm going to let him tell one of the greatest stories that people don't know. And while we were at Providence, he had one of, I think Mark Anderson, you took Mark's place. Right. And Mark had left to go to Ohio State. And we had on our team a group of guys, 5 guys, that all of them ended up getting drafted. We had lottery picks, and nobody recruited any of them. And Mark said, hey, there's a kid that's been coming to our camp here at Ohio State for a long time, and we know you guys are looking for a project and a guy that could come in and maybe redshirt. And this is a kid's name, and I gave it to Dennis. When you give Dennis something, he's going to follow up on it, so you can take it from there. This is a great story about it.
And what he actually said is, he had just been at Providence. He said, hey, this kid's not good enough for us right now, but I know, how tough it is to get size at Providence and that sort of thing. So yeah, like he told me about him. I said, thanks, Mark, and followed up and started recruiting the kid on the telephone. And finally, he was from St. Croix, Virgin Islands. So I hadn't seen him play yet. Went down to St. Croix to see him, and this was before cell phones and things, and I had to find this playground that he was supposed to be playing at on my own, and St. Croix had never been there before, and no way to call to get some help, so I'm running around St. Croix. It's a small island, small city, and finally I find the court, and it's literally, oh man, from here to that camera from the ocean. It's basically like a sand court on the ocean. So I park up above the coast, and I'm walking. It's kind of a slope down towards the beach, and I'm walking down, and as I get closer, I see the kid, and he's a big kid, and it looks like he's playing with a bunch of 10-year-olds. And I'm walking down the hill, and the closer I get, the better I can see him, and I was like, man, this guy moves pretty gracefully, and my heart literally started beating, thinking, okay, this might be, pretty good. Turns out it was Tim Duncan. And so, he lived in the Virgin Islands. He never played basketball in the United States except for when he went to this summer camp, because his brother lived in Columbus, Georgia. So he went to this summer camp at Ohio State. And
Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. And so we started recruiting them like crazy. I mean, just recruiting them hard. And really, there's no competition. Delaware State was one of the schools, and somebody else, maybe South Florida, something like that.
And you lost out to Dave Odom.
Well, we know we
no, that's not, yeah.
This is the worst story gets good. He comes to visit Providence on Midnight Madness, and we had to make sure that Midnight Madness was a special thing, and we had literally one scholarship to give that year, but we knew we had 2 players that we knew that were going to transfer.
Yeah.
And so that night on Midnight Madness, we brought in Eric Williams from Vincennes Junior College, who was the #1 rated junior college player in the country, and ended up being a lottery pick. And Tim came in, and on the visit, both of them committed.
Yeah.
They both committed to us. And so when it got ready to do the national letter of intent, the good administration at Providence said, hey, you guys don't have a scholarship. I said, but we're going to have a scholarship. And they said, we can't do that. I said, what do you mean we can't do that? That's when I knew I had to leave Providence. And so we literally had to tell Tim that,
sorry, we have no scholarship to give you.
Well, we tried to, and that was the even more frustrating part about it. So I just tried to talk him into waiting. This is in November. I said, Tim, we're going to have a scholarship. This just a kind of a red tape sort of thing. Our administration just won't let us sign both guys with only one scholarship in hand, but we know we'll have one. Well, and the 2 other schools that got involved with Wake Forest and Georgetown, and it's because they had 2 former players who did a clinic in St. Croix and saw him and told their coaches about him. So the last recruiting conversation I had with Tim on the phone it went like this. I said, Tim, get your dad, put him on the phone. So we're on a 3-way. I said, go get Wake Forest's media guide, because they were in the same exact boat. They had no scholarships in hand, but that was never a big deal. If you kind of knew that you were going to have some movement on your roster, it was only a big deal to the administrators of Providence. So I said, go get their media guide. On the back cover, their roster is. I said, now let's count. And I went down with he and his dad and counted their scholarship players and said, they don't have any scholarships either. They're just not telling you. That's the spin I tried to put on it. We're just being honest. We're just telling you. And I said, Tim, just wait till spring. We'll sign you in spring. And he just wasn't comfortable with it.
After Dennis had seen him on that trip, he called me and he said, Coach, you got to get down here. So I go in, and his dad, a wonderful man, and he literally played his PE class on that. It's a cow pasture.
Yeah.
You know, and it was, so I leave, go to his house, and going to meet with the family. And his dad's a wonderful guy. And he's there, and he said, would you like to try a fresh kiwi? I was telling this last night, and I didn't know I was allergic to anything. And all at once he goes and gets one, and he peels it, and I'm sitting there going, and all at once I said, and he looked at me, he said, are you allergic to kiwi? And I said, I don't know. He said, I think you are, because he said, your neck is red. And I didn't realize it. So he got me Benadryl or something. But
we literally used to sit on their back porch, and there was a mango tree that hung into the porch. And his dad would just reach up and pick a mango without even standing up. Slice it up, eating mango on his porch, the whole thing.
And I'll never forget his dad give me an education on how the rainwater, how it comes
how
in.
they collect it.
Yeah, it collects. It was great. But it was and when we laugh about it today. I mean, when we saw, you know, he...
what might have been, right?
Dennis worked with the Spurs for 3 years, and he would tell you when he walked in and saw Tim the first day, what did he say to you?
Tim was like, here's the guy that took my scholarship. I was like, Tim, you know it didn't happen like that. And I'm not sure he really understands to this day. But,
you know what? I don't. It might have changed the course of things. You know?
Yeah.
Might have. Dennis Felton, our special guest. We'll continue here with Longhorn Weekly with head coach Rick Barnes on the Longhorn IMG Radio Network.